The sky burned red as Lyra's small ship fell toward the blue planet. Smoke filled the cockpit. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Her silver hands gripped the controls tightly. This was not how her mission was supposed to go. System failure. Engine damage at 60%, the ship's computer said in a flat voice. Lyra's amber eyes narrowed. She was the last daughter of a once great family, the last of the Cathal line, and now she was about to crash on the human world called Earth. Activate emergency landing. Protocols, she ordered. Insufficient. Power, the computer replied. Lyra hit the control panel with her fist. Her silver scales reflected the red warning lights. She had been so careful, so cautious. How had the humans detected her approach? Far below, in a military base called Bastion 7, Commander Olivia Reeves watched the falling ship on a large screen. Her face showed no emotion, but her eyes were sharp and focused. Target will crash in Sector 4, said Lieutenant Abby Carter. She was young but skilled at her job. Should we send capture teams or elimination squads? Olivia thought for a moment. Capture. I want this one alive. Around her, the command center hummed with activity. Humans in uniform moved quickly, preparing for the alien arrival. Ever since the first contact with the Azurian Empire 5 years ago, these incidents had become more common. Lone alien ships testing Earth's defenses, probing for weaknesses. Commander, said Security Chief Kelly Winters, may I remind you that the last Azurian we captured killed 3 guards before we contained it? Her, Olivia corrected. They're females or the warriors. And yes, I remember. That's why you'll use the new containment protocols. She turned to face Kelly. I need information more than I need another dead alien. In the sky above, Lyra fought to control her dying ship. The ground rushed up to meet her, trees, a small lake. Then a clearing. It would have to do. Brace for impact, she told herself, securing the straps across her chest. The ship hit hard. Metal screamed. The view screen cracked. Lyra's head snapped forward, then back. Pain shot through her body, but she was alive. Blood, deep blue against her silver skin, dripped from a cut on her forehead. She wiped it away and checked her survival pack. The small device hidden inside was still intact. Good. That was all that mattered. Lyra pulled a weapon from beneath her seat. It hummed to life in her hand, glowing with soft blue energy. She had no illusions about escaping. But she would not be taken easily. The ship's hatch was jammed. She kicked it 3 times before it broke open. Fresh air rushed in, strange air, full of unfamiliar scents. Lyra took a cautious breath. Not toxic, at least not immediately. She could survive here. She stepped out into the clearing. The grass was bright green, almost painfully so to her sensitive eyes. The sky was a shade of blue she had never seen before. For a moment, despite her situation, Lyra felt a sense of wonder. That moment ended when she heard the aircraft approaching. 3 black ships appeared over the trees. They hovered, then slowly descended in a triangle formation around her crashed vessel. Doors opened. Humans in protective gear jumped out, weapons raised. Do not move, a voice commanded through a speaker. Place your weapon on the ground. Lyra considered her options. There were 12 humans that she could see. Probably more that she couldn't see. Her ship was destroyed. She was injured, though not seriously. Fighting would be pointless, but surrender went against everything she had been taught. I repeat, place your weapon on the ground and put your hands on your head. With a fluid motion that surprised the humans, Lyra dropped to one knee and fired her weapon, not at the soldiers, at her own ship. The blue energy beam hit the engine core. Sparks flew. A small explosion followed. Take cover, someone yelled. The humans scattered, expecting a large explosion. But Lyra knew there wouldn't be one. The ship's power core had been depleted in the crash. She had merely destroyed the navigation system and any data the humans might recover. Before the humans realized her trick, Lyra was running toward the trees. She was faster than a human, all Azurians were. If she could reach the forest, she might have a chance. She never made it. Something hit her back. Not a bullet, but some kind of energy pulse. Her muscles seized. The weapon fell from her hand. Lyra collapsed onto the soft grass, unable to move. Boots appeared in her field of vision. A human knelt beside her, not wearing a helmet like the others. This one was female, with short dark hair and eyes that reminded Lyra of the deep space between stars. I am Commander Olivia Reeves, the human said. You are now in custody of Earth Defense Forces. Lyra could only stare back. The paralysis weapon had frozen her body but not her mind. "Secure her and prepare for transport," Olivia ordered the soldiers around her. Then she looked back at Lyra. "You're the 5th Azurian to enter our space this month, but the first to survive. Consider yourself lucky." Lucky was not the word Lyra would have chosen. But as they lifted her onto a stretcher and secured her with restraints, she realized this might work to her advantage. Being captured had not been part of her plan. But plans could change. The humans didn't search her thoroughly enough. The small device remained hidden against her skin, under a layer of scales at the base of her spine. They would never find it unless they knew exactly where to look. As they loaded her into one of their aircraft, Lyra caught a final glimpse of her ruined ship. Another failure. Her people had endured so many lately. The once mighty Azurian Empire was crumbling, though these humans didn't know that yet. Inside the human aircraft, medical staff approached her with scanners and equipment. Lyra felt the paralysis beginning to wear off. She could move her fingers slightly now. Soon she would be able to speak. Commander Olivia Reeves sat across from her, watching with those dark, unreadable eyes. "Your ship had no identification markings," Olivia said. "You were flying without transponder signals. Care to explain why?" Lyra remained silent, even though she could now speak if she wanted to. "Let them think the paralysis lasted longer than it did. Let them underestimate her. We'll be at Bastion 7 in 20 minutes, Olivia continued. "There, you'll be questioned properly. If you cooperate, you'll be treated well." She leaned forward. "If not, well, that's your choice." The aircraft engines hummed. Humans moved around, talking in low voices. Lyra closed her eyes, appearing weak and defeated. Inside, her mind raced, forming new plans. She had been trained for this. Capture, interrogation, she knew how to resist. She knew how to lie. And most importantly, she knew how to make her enemies trust her. This human, this Commander Olivia Reeves, would be the key. Lyra had seen something in those dark eyes. Curiosity. Intelligence. Perhaps even sympathy. Yes, Lyra decided. Olivia Reeves would be her way out. Her means of completing the mission. The human just didn't know it yet. 2 months had passed since Lyra first helped the humans. Now she walked through Bastion 7 with an escort of only one guard. Her new quarters were spacious and comfortable. She took meals in the officers' dining hall. She even attended some tactical meetings where her knowledge of Azurian military strategies proved valuable. But she was still a prisoner. The tracking bracelet on her wrist made sure of that. It monitored her location, her vital signs, and would deliver a paralyzing shock if she tried to remove it or enter restricted areas. Today, Lyra sat in a laboratory with Dr. Morgan Sinclair, the base's chief xenobiologist. Morgan was a woman with kind eyes and a scientist's curiosity. She was one of the few humans besides Olivia who treated Lyra as a person rather than a dangerous alien. "Your cellular regeneration is remarkable," Morgan said, looking at samples under a microscope. "Much faster than ours." "An evolutionary adaptation," Lyra explained. "Our homeworld has higher radiation levels than Earth." Morgan made notes on her tablet. "That explains a lot about your physiology." She looked up at Lyra. "Thank you for allowing these tests. You've been very cooperative." Lyra smiled slightly. "I have nothing to hide." That was, of course, a lie. Lyra had many secrets, but she had decided to be honest about small things to better hide the big ones. "Olivia told me you're being moved to the orbital station next week," Morgan said. Lyra nodded. "Apparently my knowledge of space-based combat will be useful there." What she didn't say was how perfect this was for her plans. The orbital station was closer to her ultimate goal, and Olivia would be there too, having been promoted to oversee all alien intelligence operations. Later that day, Lyra found Olivia in the simulation room, practicing combat scenarios against virtual Azurian fighters. Lyra watched silently as Olivia moved with precision, taking down opponent after opponent. "Your technique is good," Lyra said when Olivia finished, "but real Azurians don't move like that." Olivia wiped sweat from her forehead. "Show me." Lyra stepped into the simulation area. "May I?" she asked, gesturing to the practice weapon in Olivia's hand. After a moment's hesitation, Olivia handed it over. It wasn't a real weapon, just a weighted training model, but it was the first time anyone had allowed Lyra to hold anything that even resembled a weapon since her capture. Azurians lead with the left side. Lyra demonstrated, moving through a combat form slowly. Our center of balance is different from yours, and we rely more on speed than strength. Olivia watched carefully. Show me again. They spent an hour this way, with Lyra demonstrating and Olivia learning. By the end, they were moving together, Lyra attacking and Olivia defending, then switching roles. You're a good teacher, Olivia said as they returned the practice weapons. You're a good student, Lyra replied, quick to adapt. Their eyes met and Lyra felt that strange connection again. Something that went beyond prisoner and captor, beyond alien and human, something unexpected and potentially dangerous. That night, Dr. Morgan Sinclair worked late in her lab, reviewing data from Lyra's most recent tests. Something was bothering her. Inconsistencies in the hormone levels, fluctuations that didn't make sense unless... Morgan pulled up older scans, comparing them to the new ones. Yes, there it was. Evidence of glandular activity that hadn't been present in the early examinations. She immediately wrote a report and sent it to General Foster. In her office, General Foster read the report with growing concern. The alien appears to be producing compounds similar to pheromones, Morgan had written. These could potentially influence human judgment and decision-making, especially with prolonged exposure. Commander Reeves has spent more time with the subject than anyone else and shows elevated levels of cortisol and dopamine when in the alien's presence. Foster immediately called for a meeting with her senior staff, excluding Olivia. I want their interactions restricted, she ordered. And I want Commander Reeves reassigned. On what grounds? Asked Kelly Winters. Olivia has made more progress with the alien than anyone else. That's precisely what concerns me, Foster replied. Dr. Sinclair believes the alien may be influencing her somehow, biochemically. Olivia won't accept reassignment easily, Kelly warned. She's invested in this project. Then we don't tell her it's permanent, Foster decided. We'll say it's temporary for the orbital station transfer. Then once they're separated, we'll evaluate Reeves's condition. But before the orders could be implemented, alarms blared throughout the base. The emergency system activated, blast doors closing automatically. Security breach in Sector 7, announced the automated voice. All personnel to emergency stations. Lyra was in the officer's lounge when the alarm sounded. Her guard immediately grabbed her arm. Back to your quarters, he ordered. What's happening? Lyra asked, though she had a good idea already. None of your concern, the guard said, pulling her toward the door. They didn't make it far. The lights in the corridor flickered, then went out. Emergency lighting came on, bathing everything in red. Then came the sound of weapons fire. Close. The guard pushed Lyra against the wall and drew his own weapon. Don't move, he warned. 3 figures appeared at the end of the corridor, tall with silver skin that reflected the red emergency lights. Azurians. The guard fired. One of the Azurians fell. But the others were too fast. They reached the guard before he could fire again. A brief struggle, and then he lay motionless on the floor. Lyra stood very still as her people approached. Lyra Cathal, one of them said in their native language. We've come to free you. How did you find me? Lyra asked, also in their language. The beacon activated 3 days ago, the Azurian replied. We've been planning the extraction since then. He reached for her arm. Come, we must hurry. Lyra hesitated. The beacon, the small device hidden beneath her scales. She had activated it, yes, but not for a rescue. It had been part of her plan all along, but the timing was wrong. She wasn't ready. I can't leave yet, she said. The Azurian looked confused. What do you mean? We're here to save you. I have a mission, Lyra explained. It's not complete. Your mission was to map their defense systems, the other Azurian said. Surely you've gathered enough intelligence by now, so that's what they thought she was doing. Good. Better they believe that than know the truth. There's more to learn, Lyra insisted. The orbital station. There's no time for this, the first Azurian cut her off. The humans will contain this breach soon. We must go now. Before Lyra could argue further, the sound of boots echoed from the other end of the corridor. Human security forces approaching. Too late, the Azurian growled. We'll have to fight our way out. Decisions had to be made quickly. Lyra couldn't reveal her true mission, not even to her own people. But she also couldn't let them die here, and she couldn't leave, not when she was so close to her goal. This way, she said, pointing to a side passage. There's a maintenance shaft that leads to the lower levels. We can reach the landing bay from there. The Azurians followed her. Lyra led them through the base, avoiding security checkpoints. She knew the layout well after months of careful observation. They encountered a few humans along the way. The Azurians wanted to kill them all, but Lyra convinced them to use stun weapons instead. Dead humans will bring more anger and resources against our people, she argued. Unconscious ones just bring embarrassment to their commanders. Finally, they reached a security door that led to the landing bay. One of the Azurians placed a device on the control panel. It beeped, then the door slid open. You've learned their systems well, he said with approval. Beyond the door was chaos. Humans and Azurians locked in combat. Weapon fire crisscrossed the large space. 3 Azurian ships had somehow landed inside the bay, their ramps down, waiting for a quick escape. There, the Azurian pointed. We must reach the central ship. Lyra saw human security forces being pushed back. She saw several bodies on the ground, both human and Azurian. And then she saw Olivia, directing the defense, weapon in hand. Their eyes met across the battle. Olivia's widened in surprise, then narrowed. She thought Lyra was escaping, that this whole attack had been planned, that everything between them had been a lie, and Lyra couldn't explain. Not now, not here, not with her own people watching, so she ran. But not toward the Azurian ships. She ran toward the nearest computer terminal, the one that controlled the bay doors. "What are you doing?" one of the Azurians shouted. Lyra didn't answer. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, entering codes she had memorized weeks ago. The terminal beeped. Access granted. That was when Olivia reached her, weapon raised. "Step away from the terminal," she ordered. "Olivia," Lyra said softly. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," Olivia replied, her voice hard. "This was your plan all along." The Azurians were approaching from behind, weapons aimed at Olivia. Lyra had seconds to make a choice that would change everything. She pressed the final key on the terminal, but instead of opening the bay doors for the Azurian ships to escape, alarms blared. Blast shields began to lower, sealing the bay. "Emergency containment activated," announced the computer. "All personnel clear the area." The Azurians realized what she had done. "Traitor," one of them shouted, firing at her. The journey to Titan took 14 days. Lyra and Olivia traveled on a small Earth vessel called the Venture, along with a crew of 6 specialists. Near Jupiter, they rendezvoused with the Resistance ship, a sleek vessel called the Starbreaker. Commander Vex and Lara greeted them in the docking bay. He was taller than Lyra, his silver scales darker and more pronounced. His amber eyes evaluated the humans carefully. "Commander Reeves," he said, inclining his head. "Welcome aboard." "Commander Vex," Olivia replied with a similar gesture. "Thank you for your cooperation." "Necessity makes strange allies," Vex said. He turned to Lyra and spoke in their native language. The sounds were musical but sharp. Lyra responded in kind, her voice rising and falling in patterns that seemed to carry meaning beyond the words. "What are they saying?" whispered Lieutenant Abby Carter, one of the specialists from Earth. "They're discussing the mission," Olivia answered, recognizing a few words from her studies of the Azurian language. "And I think they're families." After the greetings, both crews gathered in the Starbreaker's strategy room. The combined team included 12 Azurians and 7 humans. Vex activated a holographic display showing Titan and the Imperial facility built into its surface. "The weapon is here," he said, highlighting a massive structure. "It draws power from thermal energy in Titan's core. The control center is 5 levels down, heavily guarded." "What's our insertion point?" asked Sam Rivers, the Earth team's security expert. "There's a maintenance access here." Vex pointed to a smaller structure. "Used for bringing in large equipment. Our intelligence suggests it's minimally guarded." "Because they don't expect an attack," Lyra added. "Especially not from a combined force of humans and Azurians." The plan was detailed but flexible. They would approach in the Starbreaker, using technology that masked their energy signature. A small team would enter through the maintenance access, disable the security systems, then proceed to the control center. Lyra would use her family's access codes to shut down the weapon while the others provided cover. "Once the weapon is disabled, we place charges here, here, and here." Vex indicated key structural points. "Then we leave before the Empire realizes what's happened." "And if they do realize it?" Olivia asked. "Then we fight our way out." Vex replied simply. As the meeting broke up, Lyra found herself alone with Vex. He spoke quietly in their language. "Your father would be proud," he said. Completing the mission, he began. Lyra's hand went to the small pendant she wore, a family emblem. "He died believing he had failed, and now you will succeed where he could not," Vex assured her. He glanced toward the door where Olivia had exited. "The human commander? You trust her?" "With my life," Lyra replied without hesitation. Vex's expression was unreadable. "Be careful, Lyra Cathal. Humans are unpredictable, even the good ones." That night, unable to sleep, Lyra went to the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before her, and in the distance Saturn's rings glowed faintly. Titan was just a small speck from this distance, but tomorrow they would reach it. She heard footsteps and turned to see Olivia approaching. "Couldn't sleep either?" Olivia asked. Lyra shook her head. "Too much to think about." They stood side by side, looking out at the stars. "I never imagined I would be here," Olivia said after a while. "On an alien ship headed for Saturn's moon, working with the people we've been fighting for years." "Life rarely follows our expectations," Lyra agreed. "When I left my home for this mission, I expected to die completing it." "I never expected you." Olivia turned to look at her. "What do you mean?" Lyra met her gaze. "I mean that when I offered my loyalty to gain your trust, I didn't expect to actually give it. Truly give it." The moment stretched between them, full of unspoken feelings. "Lyra," Olivia began, but an alarm cut her off. Red lights flashed throughout the ship. "Proximity alert," announced a voice over the intercom. "Imperial patrol detected." They rushed to the bridge. Vex was already there, issuing orders. "Stealth systems at maximum," he commanded. "Minimal power output." On the screens, they could see an Imperial cruiser moving through space not far from them. It was much larger than the Starbreaker, heavily armed. "Have they seen us?" Olivia asked. "Unclear," Vex replied tensely. "Their scan pattern is standard, not focused." They watched in silence as the cruiser continued its patrol route. Minutes passed. The cruiser began to move away. "They're leaving," Abby said with relief. But then the cruiser suddenly changed course, turning directly toward them. "They've detected us," Vex said grimly. "Battle stations when we can't fight that ship," Olivia protested. "It's 3 times our size." "We don't need to win," Vex replied. "We just need to survive long enough to reach Titan. The moon's atmosphere will hide us." The Starbreaker's engines roared to life. The ship surged forward, accelerating toward Titan. The Imperial cruiser followed, gaining quickly. "They're charging weapons," reported an Azurian at the tactical station. "Evasive maneuvers," Vex ordered. "Countermeasures ready." The ship shuddered as the first Imperial shots passed nearby. The Starbreaker twisted and turned, trying to avoid the enemy fire. "Return fire," Vex commanded. "Target their forward sensors." The Starbreaker's weapons were smaller but more precise. Beams of energy struck the cruiser's sensor array, temporarily blinding it. "Full power to engines," Vex ordered. "Make for Titan now." The ship accelerated even faster. Titan grew larger on the view screen. They were minutes away from its atmosphere, but the Imperial cruiser recovered quickly. It fired again and this time struck the Starbreaker's port side. The ship shook violently. Alarms blared. "Hull breach in Section 4, reported the tactical officer. "Sealing emergency bulkheads." "Casualties?" Vex demanded. 3 wounded. "No fatalities." They were now entering Titan's upper atmosphere. The ship shuddered from both weapons impacts and atmospheric friction. "The cruiser is still pursuing," Abby reported. "They're launching fighters." "They're determined," Vex noted grimly. "Too determined," Lyra said suddenly. "This isn't a random patrol." "They knew we were coming," Olivia looked at her sharply. "How is that possible?" "I don't know," Lyra admitted. "But standard patrols don't pursue this aggressively without calling for backup first." The Starbreaker descended deeper into Titan's thick atmosphere. Visibility decreased as clouds of methane and other gases surrounded them. "We're approaching the insertion point," Vex announced. "Prepare for landing." Despite the damage, the ship made a controlled descent to Titan's surface, settling in a valley several miles from the Imperial facility. The cruiser remained in orbit, unable to follow them down, but certainly reporting their position. "We need to move quickly," Vex said. "They'll send ground forces to find us." The strike team assembled quickly. 12 members total, 6 Azurians including Lyra and Vex. and 6 humans, including Olivia and Abby. They wore specialized suits to protect them from Titan's harsh environment. The plan remains the same, Vex told them, but we'll need to move faster. The Imperial forces will be on high alert now. They exited the ship into Titan's alien landscape. The sky was a thick orange haze. Methane lakes dotted the terrain. In the distance, they could see the Imperial facility, a massive structure built into a ridge. Stay low and keep formation, Olivia instructed as they moved out. They traveled swiftly across the rocky surface, using natural formations for cover. No one spoke unless necessary. Every sound carried in their comm systems. When they were halfway to the facility, Abby, who was monitoring their surroundings, suddenly signaled for them to stop. "Movement ahead," she whispered. "Multiple signatures. Imperial scouts," Vex confirmed, checking his scanner. "They must have deployed immediately after our landing." "How many?" Olivia asked. "At least 20, Vex replied. "Too many to engage without alerting the main facility." "We need a diversion," Lyra suggested. Sam Rivers pulled something from his pack. "I have remote charges. We could set them off away from our position. Draw their attention." "Do it," Olivia ordered. Sam programmed the charges and handed them to one of the Azurian team members, who moved away quickly to plant them. 5 minutes later, explosions rocked the landscape to the east of their position. As expected, the Imperial scouts moved toward the disturbance. "Now," Vex signaled, and they continued toward the facility. They reached the maintenance access without further incident. The door was secured with an Imperial lock system. "Stand back," Lyra said. She approached the panel and entered a complex series of codes. The panel blinked, then turned green. The door slid open. "Cathal family codes," she explained. "They still work." Inside, they split into 2 teams. Vex would lead one group to place explosives at key structural points. Lyra and Olivia would lead the second team to the control center to disable the weapon. "Comms check every 5 minutes," Vex instructed. "If you miss 2 checks, we assume you're compromised and proceed accordingly." "Understood," Olivia replied. "Good luck." "We make our own luck," Vex said with a grim smile. The teams separated. Lyra led her group through service corridors, avoiding the main passageways. They encountered few Imperial personnel, and those they did find were quickly subdued without raising alarms. "This is too easy," Abby whispered as they approached the 5th level. "Where is everyone?" "Most of the facility is automated," Lyra explained. "The Empire prefers machines to people when possible. Less chance of rebellion." The battle for Bastion 7 lasted 3 hours. In the end, most of the Azurian attackers were captured or killed. A few escaped in a single ship, blasting their way through the bay doors that Lyra had tried to lock. Now Lyra sat in an interrogation room, her hands bound with stronger restraints than before. The tracking bracelet on her wrist had been reinforced with a second one on her ankle. Armed guards stood by the door. The door opened and General Diane Foster entered, followed by Olivia and Kelly Winters. Foster's face was hard as stone. 16 dead, she said without preamble. 22 injured. Millions in damage to the base. All because of you. "I didn't betray you," Lyra said quietly. "No?" Foster's voice dripped with disbelief. "Your people just happened to attack right when you were about to be transferred to our most sensitive installation." "I didn't call them here," Lyra insisted. "The beacon says otherwise," Kelly interjected. "We found it during your medical scan after the attack. Surgically removed it from the base of your spine." Lyra closed her eyes briefly. Of course they had found it. She should have known they would scan her thoroughly after what happened. "Yes, I activated the beacon," she admitted, "but not to arrange an attack." "Then why?" Olivia asked. Her voice was controlled, professional, but Lyra could hear the hurt beneath it. Lyra looked directly at her. "I needed to make contact, but carefully, secretly." "Contact with whom?" Foster demanded. "There are factions among my people," Lyra explained. "The empire that you're fighting is just one of them. There are others. Resistance groups. Those who oppose the Emperor and want peace." The 3 humans exchanged glances. "You expect us to believe there's an Azurian resistance?" Kelly asked skeptically. "Why do you think I helped you stop the attack on the lunar colony?" Lyra countered. "Why do you think I just trapped my own people in your landing bay instead of escaping with them?" "To gain our trust," Foster suggested. "To get closer to our secrets." "If that were true, I would be gone now," Lyra pointed out. "I had a clear path to escape. I chose to stay." A long silence followed. Olivia studied Lyra's face, searching for signs of deception. Let's say I believe you, Olivia said finally. That still doesn't explain the beacon, or why your supposed resistance attacked our base. The beacon was meant for a specific receiver, Lyra explained. Someone in the resistance. But the Empire forces must have intercepted the signal. They thought they were rescuing me. Convenient, Foster muttered. But it makes sense, Olivia said slowly. If Lyra had wanted to escape or help the attackers, she could have. Instead, she tried to trap them and warned us. Or that could be part of a deeper plan, Kelly argued. Make us think she's on our side, gain even more access. To what end? Olivia asked. She already had access to most of the base. The orbital station, Foster said grimly. Where our defense coordination happens. Where the quantum navigation database is kept. Lyra said nothing as they debated. Let them talk through it themselves. Sometimes the best way to convince someone was to let them convince themselves. Finally, Foster turned to her. If there really is an Azurian resistance, prove it. Give us something concrete. I can do better than that, Lyra said. I can arrange a meeting. Between your leaders and ours, but I'll need access to communications equipment. Secure channels. Foster laughed without humor. You must think we're fools. General, Olivia interjected. What if we control the communication? Set up a secure system, monitor everything. We can cut it off at the first sign of trouble. Foster considered this. And what guarantee do we have that this isn't a trap? Me, Olivia said firmly. I'll take personal responsibility for her actions. Foster raised an eyebrow. You're willing to stake your career on an alien prisoner? One who may have manipulated you chemically? What? Lyra asked, confused. Dr. Sinclair found evidence that you produce compounds similar to pheromones, Kelly explained. Potentially capable of influencing human behavior. Lyra actually laughed. Is that what you think? That I've been, seducing the commander with alien biology? The evidence, Foster began. The evidence is being misinterpreted, Lyra cut her off. Yes, my species produces different biochemicals than yours, but they don't work on humans the way you think. They're stress responses, not manipulation tools. Prove it, Foster challenged. Test me, Lyra replied. Put me in a sealed room. Monitor my chemical output when Commander Reeves is present and when she isn't. You'll see the difference is based on my comfort level, not any attempt at control. The tests took place over the next 3 days. Dr. Morgan Sinclair supervised, taking readings under various conditions. In the end, her findings supported Lyra's explanation. The compounds increase when she's relaxed, not when she's trying to influence anyone, Morgan reported. They appear to be more like human endorphins than manipulative pheromones. With that concern addressed, Foster reluctantly approved a supervised communication attempt. Lyra was taken to a secure room with equipment that had been carefully isolated from the base's main systems. You have 5 minutes, Foster told her. Make them count. Lyra nodded and began inputting a complex series of codes. The screen flickered, then stabilized, showing only static. Is it working? Olivia asked. Wait, Lyra said. She spoke clearly into the microphone, using her native language. The words were musical but sharp like glass wind chimes in a storm. The static cleared. A face appeared on the screen, silver-scaled like Lyra's but with patterns that marked a different family line. Lyra Cathal, the Azurian said in heavily accented English. We feared you were lost. I am well, Commander Vex, Lyra replied in English for the human's benefit. But our situation has grown complicated. Imperial forces intercepted my beacon. We know, Vex said grimly. Their attack was not authorized by us. We've been trying to contact you since we lost your signal. Foster stepped forward. I am General Diane Foster of Earth Defense Forces. Who exactly are you? I am Commander Vex and Lara of the Azurian Liberation Front, the alien replied. What your people call the Resistance. And you oppose the Empire we're fighting? Foster asked skeptically. We have opposed the Emperor for longer than your people have known of our existence, Vex said. This war with Earth serves only to strengthen his position and weaken those who would see him removed. Yet your weapons kill our people just as effectively, Foster noted. War makes enemies of those who should be allies, Vex replied, which is why Lyra's mission is so important. All eyes turned to Lyra. What exactly is your mission? Olivia asked quietly. Lyra took a deep breath. To establish contact between the Resistance and Earth. to form an alliance that could end this war and overthrow the Emperor. Ambitious, Kelly commented. Necessary, Vex corrected. The Emperor plans to use a weapon that will destroy not just Earth's military capabilities, but render your planet uninhabitable. That got their attention. What kind of weapon? Foster demanded. We call it the World Eater, Vex explained. It generates a cascade reaction in a planet's core, essentially causing it to collapse from within. That's impossible, Morgan said. The energy requirements alone would be beyond your science, yes, Vex agreed, but not beyond ours. If such a weapon exists, why haven't they used it already? Kelly asked. Because it's still being constructed, Lyra answered. In orbit around a moon in your system. What you call Titan. Foster looked alarmed. Saturn's moon? We have research stations there. Had, Vex corrected grimly. They were quietly eliminated 3 months ago. The Empire has been using the facilities for their own purposes, maintaining communication to avoid suspicion. Olivia looked at Lyra. This is why you wanted to get to the orbital station. Lyra nodded. From there I could access deep space communications, get precise coordinates, arrange for a resistance ship to extract me and take me to Titan, where I could sabotage the weapon. Alone? Olivia asked incredulously. I am House Cathal, Lyra said, a hint of pride in her voice. My family were the Emperor's chief weapon designers before they joined the Resistance and were executed for treason. I know Imperial technology better than anyone. Except you were captured before you could complete your mission, Foster observed. Yes, Lyra admitted, but now there's a better way. An alliance. Your forces, our knowledge. The communication time expired, the screen going dark. Foster ordered everyone out except for Olivia and Kelly. Thoughts? She asked her officers. It could be an elaborate trap, Kelly warned. Get us to send forces to Titan away from Earth's defenses. Or it could be genuine, Olivia countered. And ignoring it could mean Earth's destruction. Foster paced the small room. We need to verify their claims. Check on those research stations on Titan. Look for unusual activity in that sector. And if it checks out? Olivia asked. Foster's face was grim. Then we have a very difficult decision to make. Over the next week, Earth forces quietly investigated the situation around Titan. Communication with the research stations had indeed been normal, but all live video feeds had been down for maintenance for months. A stealth probe was sent, and its readings confirmed unusual energy signatures consistent with large-scale construction. Lyra remained under guard, but was allowed to assist with analysis of the probe data. Her expertise proved valuable, identifying Imperial security patterns and suggesting ways to avoid detection. 3 weeks passed. Lyra sat in her cell at Bastion 7. The room was small but not uncomfortable. A bed, a table, a bathroom area behind a privacy screen. 3 meals a day. No windows, but the light changed to match Earth's day and night cycle. The humans were not cruel, just careful. They kept her hands bound when they moved her for questioning. They never sent fewer than 4 guards. They watched her constantly through cameras in the corners of her cell. Today would be her 12th meeting with Commander Olivia Reeves. Lyra had counted each one. She had also counted the steps from her cell to the interrogation room. She had noted which guards were alert and which were not. She had learned the base's daily rhythms. All useful information if escape became necessary, but escape was not her goal. Not yet, the door opened. 2 guards entered, followed by Olivia Reeves. The commander looked tired today, small shadows under her eyes, hair not as neat as usual. Good morning, Lyra, Olivia said. She always used Lyra's name, never prisoner or alien like the others. Commander, Lyra replied with a small nod. She had decided to be polite but not friendly. Not yet. The guard secured Lyra's restraints to the table, then stepped back to the wall. Olivia sat across from her and placed a tablet on the table. We need to talk about your people, Olivia said, specifically why they haven't tried to find you. Lyra kept her face blank. This was new, a new approach. We've been monitoring all frequencies, Olivia continued. No rescue attempts, no messages, nothing. She leaned forward. They've abandoned you, Lyra. Lyra knew this was probably a lie, a tactic, but she also knew it contained a kernel of truth. No rescue would come because no one knew she was here. Her mission had been secret, unofficial. Perhaps, Lyra said slowly. I no longer wish to return. Olivia's eyes narrowed slightly. She had not expected this response. Why wouldn't you want to return to your people? She asked. Lyra looked down at her bound hands. The silver scales caught the light. Things change. Loyalties shift. Explain, Olivia said. But Lyra just shook her head. Not today, Commander. I need time to consider my position. That night in her office, Olivia watched recordings of their meeting. She played Lyra's response again and again. Perhaps I no longer wish to return. She's playing you, said Kelly Winters. The security chief stood by the door, arms crossed. These Azurians are master manipulators. It's well documented. Or she's recognizing her situation, Olivia countered. Intelligence suggests there are factions among the Azurians. Political divisions. She might be on the losing side. Or she might be feeding you exactly what you want to hear, Kelly warned. Be careful, Olivia. I've known you for 10 years. You get invested in your projects, Olivia frowned. She's not a project, Kelly. She's a prisoner of war. And possibly a valuable intelligence asset. Just remember what happened on the Jupiter station, Kelly said quietly. Those scientists thought they understood their Azurian prisoner too. Olivia didn't need the reminder. Everyone knew about Jupiter station. 6 dead, 3 missing. An Azurian escaped with critical defense codes. It had been the worst security breach in the war. This is different, Olivia insisted. Lyra is different, Kelly sighed. Just be careful, she said, and left the office. Alone, Olivia studied Lyra's face on the screen. There was something about those amber eyes, something that seemed honest. But was it? Or was she seeing what she wanted to see? The next morning, a message appeared on Olivia's tablet. Prisoner Cathal requests private audience. Security protocol dictated that no one meet with an Azurian prisoner alone, especially not one like Lyra, who had destroyed her own ship rather than let its secrets fall into human hands. But Olivia approved the request anyway. Lyra sat waiting when Olivia entered the room. No guards this time, just the two of them. The cameras were still recording, of course. Olivia wasn't foolish. Thank you for coming alone, Lyra said. What do you want, Lyra? Olivia asked, remaining standing. To make a deal, Lyra replied simply. Olivia raised an eyebrow. What kind of deal could you possibly offer? Information, Lyra said. Valuable information about an attack planned on your lunar colony. Olivia tried not to show her surprise. The lunar colony was Earth's most important outpost, home to 30,000 civilians and military personnel. If the Azurians were planning an attack there, why would you betray your own people? Olivia asked carefully. As you said, they've abandoned me, Lyra answered. Her voice was calm, but Olivia thought she detected bitterness. And I've had time to think. This war benefits no one. Not humans. Not Azurians. Only those in power who profit from conflict. And what do you want in exchange for this information? Olivia asked. Better conditions, Lyra said. Freedom to move within secure areas of the base. Access to information about your world and... She hesitated. Your protection. My protection? Olivia repeated. If my people discover I've helped you, I will be marked for death, Lyra explained. I need assurances that you won't trade me back in any prisoner exchange. That I'll remain under your personal supervision. Olivia considered the offer. If Lyra was telling the truth, this could save thousands of lives. If she was lying, what could she gain? Better conditions, yes. Possibly an opportunity to escape or access sensitive information. But Lyra had to know she would be watched constantly. I'll need proof, Olivia said finally. Details I can verify, Lyra nodded. The attack is scheduled for what you call Tuesday. 4 days from now. They will target the South Dome first, where your shield generators are located. She gave more details. Times, numbers, weapon systems. Olivia listened carefully, memorizing everything. If this checks out, we'll discuss terms, she said. Later that day, intelligence confirmed unusual Azurian fleet movements near Jupiter. They were gathering, just as Lyra had said. Olivia immediately ordered increased defenses at the lunar colony and reported Lyra's information to her superiors. General Diane Foster was skeptical. It could be misinformation, a way to make us shift resources to the moon while they attack somewhere else. I don't think so, Olivia argued. The intelligence fits with other reports we've received. And you trust this alien? General Foster asked sharply. I trust that she has her own reasons for helping us, Olivia replied carefully, which align with our interests for now. 3 days later, the Azurian attack came exactly where and when Lyra had predicted. Earth's forces were ready. The attack was repelled with minimal casualties. It was the first major victory for humanity in months. Lyra watched the news reports in her cell. She showed no emotion as the announcer described the failed Azurian assault. But inside she felt a strange mix of satisfaction and guilt. She had betrayed her people, or at least some of her people, but it had been necessary. The door to her cell opened. Olivia entered alone. You were right, Olivia said simply. Yes, Lyra replied. Why did you really help us? Olivia asked. Lyra stood and approached the human, stopping just a step away, close enough that Olivia could see the fine patterns in her silver scales, close enough to notice that Lyra's amber eyes had flecks of gold in them. Because I need you to trust me, Lyra said honestly, and because not all Azurians want this war. Their eyes met and held. Something unspoken passed between them. An understanding, perhaps the beginning of trust. You'll be moved to new quarters tomorrow, Olivia said, still secure but more comfortable. And you'll be allowed access to certain areas of the base, under supervision. Your supervision? Lyra asked. Olivia nodded. As requested. You'll remain my responsibility. Thank you, Commander, Lyra said. Olivia, the human corrected. If we're going to work together, you should use my name. After Olivia left, Lyra sat on her bed thinking. Things were proceeding faster than she had expected. The humans were so eager for any advantage in this war that they had accepted her help with minimal suspicion. She touched the place at the base of her spine where the small device remained hidden. Soon she would need to use it. But not yet. First, she needed to gain more trust, more access. And she needed to understand this human, Olivia Reeves, whose dark eyes seemed to see more than most, whose kindness might be genuine or might be the most clever trap of all. Either way, Lyra had taken the first step on a dangerous path. There would be no turning back now.